Alright, so we're going to be talking about a basic Protoss versus Zerg. It's changed a little bit with the newest balance update with shield batteries.
Yes.
But the same thing.
Just as I deserve.
Thank
You're
you.
the best for answering all these questions in chat.
Can you go a bit into explaining expanding with more bases for each race? Base upgrades as well?
Base upgrades as well?
There are no upgrades.
Sorry if you've gone over this recently.
There are no upgrades for the bases themselves. I don't know if we're talking about upgrades, but I'll talk about that. But in Protoss versus Zerg, early on, you can wall either at the top. Actually, let's play it safe. Let's wall at the top of the ramp. A little bit late on the wall. That's not a big deal. But I'm sending it out on 14 supply. I'm not using my Chrono Boost yet. My Chrono Boost is pretty important for my economy. But I'm going to build a gateway cyber core wall on the top of the ramp. You only need one pylon beforehand. So right when this pylon finishes, I'm going to build a gateway in this position. And then if I build a cyber core right next to it, that will leave a gap that will allow me to wall off with a zealot or an adept on hold position so I don't die. Now after the gate, I'm going to Chrono Boost one time. I'm only going to do that once. Get an assimilator on 17. But we're going to get that probe across the map. I sent it out to scout after the gateway. Is he going for a spawning pool early on? Is he going to go for some sort of attack, or is he going to take a hatchery? That's what I'm looking for. No hatchery yet. By the 1 minute mark, usually you'd see a hatchery first, so this could be something different. We see he has gas. Oh, I used the mineral walk there to slip through, and he's got a spawning pool already. So this means I can't take a nexus. Since he has the spawning pool so early, and he likes my probe so much, I'm actually going to get a zealot here. Now, I'm not going to get my second pylon at the front. I was going to expand, but I'm not going to. Because I want to get my second pylon at the back, so I can potentially make a shield battery in my main base. Your main defensive structure is a shield battery. After the cyber core finishes, you can build it near a pylon, and it restores the shields of your units, which include probes. Put that guy on hold position there with the H key. But the general rule, and since we see he's expanding over there, he's getting a hatchery. One shield battery at the front, and one shield battery in your mineral line. You can put it behind the mineral line, but the safest thing... Now, I don't think he's going to get Zerglings in here, whether it's with a Zergling drop or something like that. But it's not that expensive. I'm just going to put my Chrono Boost into Warp Gate. I'm getting an Adept. But the fact that he's expanding means he doesn't have that much money to attack me. So we're going to go to the low ground. I'm going to Mineral Walk this probe, by the way. Mineral Walking allows you to pass through units. Not buildings, but units, because of how the AI works. And then immediately going to work on walling off the front. Going to get a sentry. Right now, the only reason I haven't gone for tech is because he had that pull early. But I want to make a choice on the tech. Oh, I'm supply block. What a noob. But I'm going to get a robotics facility. Oh, and he's got some Zerglings. That's okay. Getting a Adept down here. He might even have more Zerglings on the way. So we need to try to build this up. We got to be a little careful. He does have the expansion, so I'll Chrono Boost, and I'll get a second pylon here. Just to make sure. And get a Chrono Boost on the gateway. But 2-gate Robo, not a big deal. I'm really focused. I want to get this expansion started by 3 minutes if he has an expansion. That's really important. I'm actually going to get a shield battery as part of the wall. It's going to look messy here. It's going to look messy. But you want to get that wall up as soon as possible. And then put a zealot in. It takes a little bit of practice. But you can practice against the AI. The robotics will allow me to get an observer. And I'm just going up to some more gates. The tech buildings you usually want pretty early on are a robo and then a Twilight Council. This allows you... Now, I want to keep making probes. I don't know if I'm safe to Chrono Boost probes yet. I'm going to go ahead and wait for that a little bit. Warp in some Stalkers. Doesn't matter too much what you warp in. But this observer will let me see and I want to keep making probes. My goal is to get 50 probes by 8 minutes. Now, that doesn't sound that hard, but it's harder than it seems. Start a forge by 5 minutes. Ideally, if he hadn't done the earlier pool, then I would have all this even earlier on. But right now, I'm just going to get my... We'll go with charge. Charge is good because you don't have to micro very much. And also, he's got roaches. So, immortals, charge lots. These are all good things to have. And we're going to go into the main with the observer there. Going to get some pylons. These are going to line the edges of my base and give me the ability to see anything coming in. Alright, we see he doesn't have a lair, but he does have an... Well, he's building one now. So he's just getting started on that. So I'm going to get my upgrade. A good thing to use your chrono on are your upgrades, because you can kind of sync them into it. If you haven't used your chrono, you got a bunch of chrono. Now, it doesn't stack, so you got to wait till the chrono runs out. But just throwing it into the upgrades, and +1 attack here is very nice. Get a couple sentries for force field. This observer, just checking around for a third base. I'm going to get a second immortal. And we're going to keep making those probes. I'm at 44. I've actually been slacking a little. And we see he has a lot of army. So I'm going to get the Templar Archives. This is not for Storm. This is to make Archons, which are super powerful. And keep chronoing that forge. Now, usually against a Zerg player, I'd want to be looking at a third base. But he's looking a little bit more aggressive. So my third base is a little later. I'd say usually around the 5-minute mark or so, you should be looking for a third. You want it sooner rather than later, but he didn't take a third base early on. So since he didn't do that, then I don't feel like I need to have that huge of an economy that early, because it'd be kind of risky. So, in order to get more vision, I'm going to put this observer in surveillance mode. And also, the select all army hotkey won't use it then. I'm going to warp in 2 Templar over here and morph them into an Archon. Start my +2 attack. And we saw this army moving out, right? We can get some shield batteries. Always good to have 2 or 3 shield batteries at your third base, especially. I'm warping in all my gateways. Oh, chrono boost that. We have an observer here. I can put it in surveillance mode, so the select all army... Now, I don't think you should be using the select all army hotkey too much. But if you do, it won't select your observers. And it won't move them. I'm railing everything over here. I've got my camera location set up. And we can just get some more zealots. A warp prism is really good to have. If you want to attack, you should have a warp prism ideally to be able to warp in other locations. Now we're at 54 probes. That's not enough. If we get to 75 probes, maybe we can start thinking about slowing down. But 55 is not enough. Oh, full chrono boost. Let's get that +2 attack. Warp in some more Archons with the W warp hotkey. But we've got shield batteries. I actually neglected a shield battery here. These are good against Mutalisks and stuff like that as well. I mean, shield batteries will also restore the shields of cannons. Having some cannons doesn't hurt. But now I'm just worried about... I'm going to hotkey the warp prism on a different hotkey. I usually like 3. Sometimes I use 6 for it. And I'm going to send it towards the main base. Now, I'm going to talk about recall. Recall costs 50 energy on your Nexus, and it recalls the units in the area to your Nexus. This is a very useful tool, and it's new. It allows you to get your units. It's your get-out-of-jail semi-free card. I don't say free because when you use recall, your units are stunned, and they will recall to the Nexus after 4 seconds. Or is it 4 seconds? It takes about 4 seconds, so there's a bit of a time. So you don't want to use it right during a fight, ideally. You want to use it when you see a bad fight coming. And that's an important part of Protoss, is realizing maybe this isn't the best fight here. Alright. At this point, I've got money in the bank. Second Forge. Dark Shrine. More pylons. Why not? We're gonna get a 4th base. Spend my money. It's burning a hole in my pocket. I'm gonna shift-click in all these to the control group. Shift 1, my entire army together. Do one more big warping, and I'm gonna move out, because what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna go towards this side. I'm not gonna go straight up here. Oh, it looks like he has an army. Oh, he got my warp prism. Looks like he has a base on the right side. I didn't expect that. We can maybe go through these rocks. Get some shield batteries.
You can't warp in there. Pay attention.
But what I'm gonna do is, because the warp prism's already here, we'll bring it towards the army, and we'll just warp in to reinforce the army. Now what you want to do before the attack starts is make sure you're building probes, chrono boosting and getting upgrades, building out of your production facilities, spending a few seconds to do that, getting a big warp in, and then we're going for the attack. This way, even if all goes wrong, then I can still deal with it. I'm using Guardian Shield to reduce the range damage. We'll throw a couple force fields in there. Don't wanna push them away, so my zealots can do damage. And then we've built a very strong army, and a very strong army has a tendency to win games.
Hey Winter, after this game, can you go into a test map and show how to defeat 12 carriers a Zerg with new patch? I know the answer is
Infested.
don't let them get there,
Infested.
but sometimes shit happens.
But this comes down.
They appear to be mostly unbeatable though.
This comes down to, well, let's talk about it a little bit. The opener was kind of weird. Usually you want to take an expansion by about the 5-minute mark. You want to start upgrades by about the 6-minute mark. A robotics facility and a Twilight are the good tech to have, but make sure you have 5 or more gateways by the 6-minute mark is Protoss. Now that's not a hard and fast rule, but a lot of players make the mistake of not having enough gateways and also not making enough probes, so they just can't make enough units. And in this case, I was able to make enough units and just run them over eventually. A third base you can look at by 5, maybe 6 minutes, and that's okay as well. But that's just the basics. It doesn't matter exactly if you do the build right. Just be careful to have those shield batteries in place. Build those walls, whether they're on the high ground or the low ground. And just be a little worried about whether a Zerg player is expanding or attacking early on. The biggest mistake you can make is just not walling off and a bunch of Zerglings getting into your base. And that's what the shield batteries and the buildings are for. Alright, good luck. Yeah, as we see, we actually had less APM than the Zerg player. But it's about how you use it. It's not about how much you have, it's about how you use it. That's what I'm trying to say here. Now we're out of guide mode.